Welcome back to the January CSEC Paper 1 2025. We're looking at question 12. The set of positive integers that are divisible by 7 is an example of a finite set. The key lies in it being a positive integer when a regular integer would be both positive and negative. But here we are boxed into only positive integers, only positive whole numbers, matter of fact. And then that is further divided by only 7. And so with that level of specifications and conditions, that would put it into the category of a finite set. Question 13 and 14 refers to the following diagram, which shows part of a shopping bill. They want to know, for item 13, the correct values of P, Q, and T. So looking at our diagram, we have P, Q, and T that we need to find the values of. The unit cost price for P, to get P we need the unit cost price, and this would be the total cost price being divided by the number of items. The total cost price is $12.40. The number of items was 4. 4 can go into 7 once, 4 can go into 12 3 times, 4 can go into 4 once. So altogether we would have 3.10. So that is $3.10 for P. There's more than one way to break down this question, but I find this way to be very effective. Next, we have to find Q and T. We barely have any supporting details, but we do have the cost price and the subtotal. So T could be equal to the summation of the flour and sugar price and subtracted from the subtotal. The subtotal is $40.40 minus the 2 is we will need to add these up. Problem is when we're doing with multiple choice is that we would not have a calculator. So here's how to add or subtract decimal numbers. So we're going to line up the decimal points, then we add or subtract. 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 2 that is 6, bring down your decimal point. 7 plus 2 that is 9, and 1 plus nothing is 1. So this would be our total here. We need to subtract that amount from the subtotal. At this point, and that's all to find T, right? So at this point we have some values down here, and we can see what T could possibly be. So we just got $19.60 from adding the 1240 and the 720. So therefore the next value will have to be what T is going to come out to be. So that'll be 20.8. Right, so there's no need to go ahead and doing that other working anymore. Now for Q, we need to figure what that will be. Let's look at the potential values. So we already did P and we got P to be 310, right? No, and we already got T. So we need to figure out what Q will be. So Q is unit cost price. So therefore, our item would have to multiply the unit cost price to give us our total cost. Essentially, what we essentially did over here. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just gonna erase this. So Q will be 8 multiplied by something. We don't know what that is, but that something is supposed to then give us 20.8. So we need to have 8 multiplied by 1, 6, 5, or 2 to see if we're going to get 20 point something. So let's put in the value. I put in the first value 1, 6, 5, and then 2. What I'm trying to do is find a rough estimate to see how close I can get to 20. 8 times 2, that is 16. 8 times 5, that's 14. Oh, that way past this. So we are going to have to cancel that. 555 is not going to work. 8 6 is 48. That's way past 20. This would have to go. And 8 times 1 is just simply 8. That is way too low to 20. So our answer would have to be $2.16. So Q is $2.60. So our answer for item 13 is D. Very good question. Item 14. According to the bill, the amount paid for VAT is what? Well, we know VAT is 8%, and that would be 8% of the subtotal. So we have 8% of the subtotal. So that's 8 out of 100 multiplied by the subtotal, which is $40.40. Now 8% as a decimal is 0.08. How did I get that? 8%, you write it back down, you put back down the figure, and the percentage sign turns into a decimal point, and then you move 2 spaces to the left. So that's going to be 1, 2. You're gonna, that 2 point here is going to be a decimal point moving. So a 0 need to come there, and a 0 need to come here. And that is how I got the 0.08. So, okay, 8% is 0.08. Now, what can we do with that information? Well, remember, that is 0.08 of $40.14. We could is count the decimal place. So that's 2 here, that's 2 decimal places, so that's 4 decimal places. And we can simply multiply as need be. So let's multiply. Remember, we had 0.08 multiplying $40.40. Now what we can do is move the decimal places 2 places to the right. So we're going to end up with 440 multiplying 8. 8 multiplied by 0 is 0. 8 multiplied by 4 is 22. Cross the 2, bring it down. 8 multiplied by 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. 8 multiplied by 4 is 32. Now remember we had 4 decimal places here. 1, 2, 3, 4 in our original question. So we need to go 1, 2, 3 and end at 4 right here. So it'll be 3.23. So this would be a VAT. So the 8% would amount to $3.23. Item 15. At a bank, $2.60 EC is equivalent to $1 US. For every $1 exchange, 10 cents EC dollars is 10 EC cents, is deducted as an exchange tax. How many EC dollars will Leon receive if he exchanges 1,000 US? This question usually repeats quite often. So let's see. Essentially what is happening here is that a fee is being deducted for exchanging of currencies. So in general, what's going to happen here is the receivable amount will be equal to the amount of US dollars, which is 1,000, multiplied by the deducted rate of 10 cents, which is EC. And so we're just going to comment with the multiplication. So it's 1,000 being multiplied by 10. And so this would be 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. 0 multiplied by 0 is 0. But then remember, in our 10 cents, we have 2 decimal places. So we need to put that back. 1, 2. So that would be 100. So our receivable amount will have to be deducted by 100. In other words, to get the actual receivable amount. So in other words, the actual received amount would be equal to receive amount minus the $100, which is the overall exchange rate fee. So the receivable amount, now what will that be? Well, they say 1,000 US. For every $1 US is equal to $2.60 in EC dollars. And so they received 1,000. So 1,000 times 1 is 1,000 US dollars. So 1,000 times $2.60 would be 2,600, right? That was supposed to be our receivable account amount. So let's put that there, 2,600. But due to the deductions of $100, we're now going to end up with the actual receivable amount, which in this case is 2,500. So item 15 is option C. Option 16. A calculator which is marked at 120 is sold for cash at a 30% discount. How much change would Susan receive if she pays for the calculator with $100 bill? The mark price is 120, and if you buy it in cash, you get a 30% discount, right? So for cash payments only, 30% discount off the mark price, right? Of the mark price. Cross out here. So that's going to be 3 multiplied by 12, that is 36. So you're gonna get that 30% discount is equivalent to $36. Since the 30% discount equals to $36, therefore that sale price will be the marked price minus the cash discount, which is the $36. So the mark price was 120 and the cash discount is 36, and this would give us what exactly? Six from 10, that's 4, and 3 from 11, that is 8. So that gives us $84. Now remember, she is paying. So let's go back up to the question. How much change would she receive if she pays for the calculator with $100 bill? Okay, so let's subtract the difference. If she paying with $100 from 84, this would leave her with $16. So she would save $16 if she paid in cash rather than card or maybe some form of hire purchase. Alright, so Susan will receive $16 in change. Item 17. By selling a bag for $1,140, Vishal incurred a loss of 5%. At what price should he have sold the bag to gain a profit of 5%? The price that we're seeing in the statement here, they did not tell us the cost of the original bag, so the original cost price. But although we don't know that, we do know the percentage of the cost price. The percentage of the cost price is always 100%. So that price that we're seeing here, remember, it incurred a loss of 5%. So that would be, just take the difference, 100 minus 5 is 95%. That is 95% off the cost of the total cost price, right? But that 95% reflects what? This money here, 1,140. So 95% equals $1,140. So we need to find for 1 and then find for 100% of the cost price. So we need to divide by 95 on both sides, and this will give us 1%. So 1% is 1,140 being divided by 95. Again, we wouldn't have a calculator, so we need to do this by head. So let's see. 5 can go into 95 how many times? And I know 5 can go into it because it ends with 5 and it ends with 0. Right? Any number that ends with 5 or 0 is divisible by 5. So multiple of 5 would be 5 multiplied by 12 is going to give me 60. Now 60 from 95 would give me 35. So what other thing can 5 be multiplied to give me 35? Well, that's easy, that's 7, right? 5 times 7 will give me 35. Okay. So therefore 5 can go into 95. 7 plus 12 is 19. So 5 can go into 95 19 times. While how many times can 5 go into 1140? It seems impossible until we really break it down. Let's see. So just write it over here, 1140 being divided by 5. How many times can 5 go into 100? 5 can go into 120 times. Alright? Okay, but here's the thing. That was 100. How many hundreds do we have in 1140? Yes, the answer is in the name, 1100. Or how many hundreds in 1100 would be 11. So we multiply this by 11. So 20 multiplied by 11 will be 220. So if you're following, we just got rid of this part here, the 1100 part. So all that's left is the 14. See, how many times can 5 go into 40? Well, we know 5 can go into 7 once, and 5 is 40. So there we have it. So 220 plus 8 is 228. So 5 can go into 1140 228 times. Okay, so let me just clear some of this out of the way so we have space to work. All right, so I'm just going to move this down as well, down this way. Okay, so it's still at our 1%. We're trying to break it down. So okay, 19 can go into 228 times. We don't know. So at this point, it's either I do some long division or we try to see how we can break it down using some kind of method. Is 228 divisible by 19? Well, we may not know exactly, but we can check. Here's how to know if a number is divisible by 19. Well, we're going to take the last digit of that number, in this case is 8, and we're going to multiply that digit by 2. 2 times 8 is 16. And then what we're going to do, we're going to take that product and add it to the remaining numbers. So that will be 16 plus 22. 2 plus 6, that's 8, and 1 plus 2, that is 3. Now if the new sum here is divisible by 19, then 228 can be divided by 19, right? And we know that 19 could go into 38 twice. So there we go. So our 228 is divisible by 19, but now we need to figure out by how much. We know 19 can go into itself once. We know that 19 can go into itself once. Well, how many times can 19 go into 228? Well, 19 squared, which is 19 multiplied by 19, is 361. You always need to know your squared numbers when you're dealing with paper ones, right? Just in maths in general. Okay, so it's not that high. How many times? So 19 times 19 would give us a 361. It's not high as 19. Okay, you have to be lower. Could it be 10? 19 times 10 would be 190. So it's not as low as 10 neither. So it's got to be somewhere in between. Okay, is it 11? 19 times 11, let's see. Just add another 9, that's going to be 199. No. What about 19 times 12? 19 times 12, 2 times 9, that's 18. Cross the 8, bring it down. 2 times 1 is 2, and 1, that's 3. Okay, put a 0 for the placeholder. So now we say 1 multiplied by 9 is 9, and 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. So 8 plus 0 is 8, and 9 plus 3, that is 12. Cross the 2, bring it down, and carry over this one over here. So 1 plus 1, that is 2. So there we have it. 19 can go into 228 12 times. Yeah, so 19 can go into self once, and 19 can go into 228 12 times. Right, so this would be our 1%, or 1% would be 100. Now that we find for 1, the 1%, we need to find for 100% to get back to the original cost price. I'm out of space, I'm going to put it here. So we multiply by 1, now we need to multiply by 100. So multiply by 100 on the left, we need to do the same to the right. So therefore 1% will be 100%, sorry, will be 1200. So 1200 was the original cost price. Well, the cost price is also the original, so that would be redundant. So 1200, so the cost price is 1200. But that would, if we stop there, that would only have us break even, right? Remember, we want to make a 5% profit now. Okay, so we need to go up by another 5%. So there's more than one ways in which we can approach this. Okay, the simplest way would have been now to backtrack now, and instead of multiply by 100, you multiply by 105%. Well, 105. So it'll be 105 multiplied by 12. 2 times 5, that's 10. 2 times 0 is 0, and 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, 0 for the placeholder now. So now we say 1 multiplied by 5 is 5, 1 multiplied by 0 is 0, 1 multiplied by 1 is 1, and then we add. Now we have 0 plus 1 plus 5 is 6, and 2 plus 0 is 2 plus 1. So 105% would be $1,260, and that would be your answer. right? So that is one way in which you could have approached this question. Our next way would have been to 100 to 100% equate to the $1,200, and then we take 5% from 1,200, and we go ahead and break it down. Break it down in a couple different ways, but you always want to start by canceling off zeros. So you could take off this next zero here. So now all we left with is 5 multiplied by 12, and we know that is 60. So then we take that 60 and add it back to the 1,200. So 1,200 plus the 60 is going to give us 1,260. And we can do it that way. So we find the 100% and then we find the 5% by itself and add them together, or we could have just add the 5% to the 100 from the start to make it 105%, and then tag that to the cost price. Item 7 was item 17. Sorry, it was a very long question. It's quite a time waster, as you have to do all these mental arithmetics and just work with all these things without a calculator. So in my opinion, if you encounter a question like this on your paper, you should try not to waste too much time on it. Maybe watch it, let your brain process it a little bit, and then continue on onto our next question that you could do maybe faster, and then come back to that question. Item 18. The cost of a machine is estimated to be decreasing at the rate of 10% every year. If it's currently costs $6,000, what will be the estimated value of the machine after 2 years? So decreasing at a rate of 10%. So this word here, decreasing, is a context clue, lending itself to depreciation, right? So in other words, we need to use the appreciation formula, or at least the concept. These two, A and D, can never be the answer. It's too outlandish from the jump. Signifies only $600 over the span of 2 years, which is like insane, right? And with A is like $1,400. Like, wow, that's a lot. Like, it's depreciating too quick. It is like milk or something. So what you want to do here is, let's see, the rate is 10% every year and the number of years is 2. Okay, so in year 1, what we're gonna have is 10% out of 100 multiplying the cost of the item, which is 6,000, right? I'm just gonna break that down. So I'm gonna cross off the zeros, cross off the 0 here as well, and then this leaves us with 10 multiplied by 60, which is going to be 600. Okay, so 10% of 6,000 is $600. No, that's for 1 year. We still have another year to go. But what figure would the new year start? Well, we need to subtract them. 6,000 minus 600 will give us 5,400. So for year 2 now, year 2 would be 10%. Remember, it's depreciated at 10% every year, with 10% of that value. So we need to do 10%. So 10, so that's 10%, percent means out of 100, so that's 10 over 100 multiplied by 5,400, and we just simply going to cancel out our zeros. So this cancel out, this cancel out, and these two zeros could cancel out, by the way. So we just destroyed the fraction on the left, so all we left with is the remaining amount, which is $540. So 10% of 5,400 is $540. So we're gonna need to subtract that from each other, like what we did on the top. $5,400 minus 540 will be, well, 0 minus 0 is 0. From here we need to borrow from the 5, so that's going to turn into 4. Now we have 14, we need to borrow from the 14, so that's going to turn into 13, and now we have 10. So 4 from 10, that's going to be 6. 5 from 13, that is 8. And we simply bring back down the 4. So that's going to be $4,860 at the second year. That would be the value, the estimated value of the machine, 4,860. So this lends itself to option C. It's Mr. John. Thank you for watching. If this video was helpful to you, like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm out.